Hello everyone, this is the Good Captain. Welcome to another video on my tutorial series on the Midway Guadalcanal game system by Avalon Hill. This is the Battle of Coral Sea, Part 6 playthrough. And we are on the first night turn in this tutorial here. So the Americans are Side A, they'll go first. So at night you can't fly. Well, I shouldn't say you can't. There's a small exception that we'll get to in the next night turn. But for this night turn, nobody's flying. So there's really no assembly step. The ready step still will function, and of course C movement. But the only searching that can be done are via your base hexes and your fleets. So there's not going to be a whole lot of anything going on, but we are going to be moving our fleets around, and this is pretty important. And after carefully studying the battlefield and counting up the victory points for both sides, uh, both forces are in a draw position. But due to the limitations of Allied aircraft, just as the Allied player, and the quantity and range of aircraft available to the Japanese player, I feel that it's the most prudent course of action as the Allied commander here to not. We really don't have an option to be super aggressive anymore. With Rabal's half the aircraft complement at Rabal is capable of a fantastic 9 hex movement range, and these are not air units to be. These are no joke. Very powerful torpedo bomber groups, and a good fighter group as well. So that, and they've got a light carrier more than we do. So we're going to play it a little defensively. In fact, so let me just review a couple of options that I see here as the Allied player. I feel like we can keep our forces split up, and the advantage to doing this is that when the Japanese inevitably come south to attempt to either destroy our aircraft carriers or invade the Port Moresby base hex, we can be in a position we could be in a spreading out makes it harder to we could potentially dodge the scouts. That's one thing. And a massive air raid on one wouldn't affect the other, in other words. So there's an advantage to spreading out, but the disadvantage is that we have to protect ourselves with the boats and aircraft available to each individual fleet. So we'd only have 2 fighter units per carrier, and then this fairly paltry number of screening vessels. So after weighing the options of spreading out and joining up, I've decided to, whoops, not this. I'm going to go ahead and link. We're going to get everybody together just as fast as we can here. So let's just do it by the numbers here. There's no assembly step. We're not going to be taking off. Nobody can fly at night. Ready step. We will do the ready step. We need to kind of shift our units into the ready boxes. So let's get everybody squared away. Okay, like that. And that's it for the ready step here. On the Japanese side, we're just going to move the Ribal units that flew last turn. We'll just move them over like that. Everyone else is good. So that's it for the ready step. Now the C movement step, starting with the Allies. Let's see, yeah, we're going to move into I-11 Task Force 17 and 11 will join up here, and then Task Force 16 will move like so here. Okay, now let's go to the Japanese players' side. The strike force will move into here, and the Japanese player is also going to sort of recalibrate their fleets. Okay. This would now be the air movement and search step, but we don't have any air movements and no searches. There are some options. We could call out the base hexes and where our fleets are right now can of course be searched, but then we give away our position to the enemy, so of course we're not going to do that. And this is kind of an interesting rule. It's not actually articulated on the sequence of play card when you can reorganize your task forces anywhere. And when you go into the rule book, as we are here, Rule 4E1 is the closest thing we get to, task force reorganization. And it basically is talking most of the time about how to reorganize your task forces after a surface battle. However, there is this sentence fragment in here. It says that this reorganization may be performed both on units in battle and also in other hexes that were uninvolved, which is kind of a really gray area of saying that this is, after surface combats are completed, you can reorganize your task forces. Okay. It even goes on to say that you have a limited amount of task forces you can use. You can only use I'll just read it here. Any task force marker currently off the search board, even if just removed, may be newly placed in a search board hex containing a ship unit or units if one or more of those ships units is placed in this ships box on the operations card. So we could make for the allies, you could make as many as are on your operations card here. Whoops. So the Japanese could have up to 6 fleets. The allies could have up to 6 fleets as well. So we're actually going to go ahead and combine Yorktown and Lexington's forces together at this point. Okay. So there's the benefits of this are, there's multiple benefits to doing this. We now will be able to rotate combat air patrols over one hex much more easily, and more efficiently than if they were split up. There's only one fleet to protect rather than 2, in other words. Also, we have more screening vessels around the vital targets, which are of course the aircraft carriers. And since the Allies have a superior anti-aircraft doctrine, it's better to do this, especially as the Allied player. We're also going to eventually group up with, and we'll dump this extra task force part. We're actually going to group up with Task Force 16 here. So we'll delete this old task force, and then just create like one large Allied fleet. Okay, which the sole purpose of which will be to interdict units coming through the China or Jomard Passage, and prevent those landing crafts from hitting the beach at Port Moresby. That's the strategy as the Allies. So ship movement's complete. So let's move on to the Japanese. And we've pretty much got the same thing going on here. We're actually going to absorb the support force into the strike force. We're going to add Shoho and the screening cruisers and pair of destroyers that were with her and add them to the strike force. Okay. The attack force, we're going to basically leave that alone. I don't see any need to, actually, just so the Americans wouldn't, or the Allies won't pick up some cheap points, we're going to leave this flipped DD squadron. I don't know if that's a smart move. Anyway, the weaker ships are going to be screening the transports. The strike force will do the heavy lifting. I've got all the best ships to protect those carriers. Yeah. Okay. All right. So let's get rid of the support force token here, task force, and let's move on. I'm going to leave these alone. These are just the old contacts, and you'll see this is just a good reminder for the Japanese player of where we had our last contacts before the lights went out on May 4th. And now we're going to go ahead and roll over to May 5th. So we're going to move this side marker like this, and the date marker forward to May 5th. And we'll do the same for the US player, like so. And then we'll go ahead and roll for turn 1 of May 5th. So, where's the dice roller? Here we go. So the US player will roll first. We roll an 8, and the Japanese side rolls a 2. So the Allied side will retain side A for the time being. So starting with the assembly step, the Allied side has no air units to launch, being it's night still. Everything's in the ready box, ready to go. Sea movement, of course we've got that. Task Force 11. Notice that this is a turn with the circle in the turn record track here. So that means that ship movements with 3 movement factors may be moved 2 hexes. And since we know Task Force 11 contains ships all with the movement factor of 3, we can move 2 spaces, 1, 2, like so. And yeah, we can always break it up later. And then Task Force 16 will do the same thing, 1, 2. Okay, so we're going to be together by the morning here. Okay, so then we go to the Japanese side. And we can basically do the same thing. It's the strike force now bolstered with Shoho's fleet. Moves 1, 2 to F3. Actually, I'm going to move to E3. Yeah. Okay. And as the Japanese player, our strategy is to, we know we have we've got the longer range aircraft, we got more aircraft, we got more carriers, we got more of everything basically. So, but we've got to the onus is on us to get those transports to Port Moresby. So, yeah, we're going to go hunting for those aircraft carriers, frankly. That's what we're going to try to do. Okay, so movement's complete. Oh, I'm sorry. On the Japanese side, actually, this is where the assembly step becomes important. So this is the Japanese, any unit that can patrol is a potential night is a unit that can be potentially used at night. So I'll just read this first sentence here because it's important to understand the context. So taking off at night is not difficult. The real problem with night flying in 1942 was finding the targets to attack, and most dangerous, finding a friendly ship or base at which to land at the end of the mission. Okay, any scout air units with the ability to patrol may take off and fly during a night turn as long as they land during a day turn. So any scout can take off and fly during night turn 1, which is what's going to happen here because it's turn 1. Then patrol, and then return to land during day turn 2. So we are going to launch everything. We're going to launch all 1, 2, 3, 4 of our scouts, because all 4 from Rabaul, I should say, because all 4 can patrol. And if we are lucky and we get an accurate contact report, something with exact information, we can roll for sub-attacks. And if we get a sub-attack, it's much more effective at night. So that's what our goal is this turn in terms of our air operations as a Japanese player. So I know I already moved the Japanese ships. It's not gonna affect anything. Let's get all the scouts out on the board and start patrolling. And this is why I left those question mark markers on the board there. We've got to kind of come up with a search pattern as the Japanese player to determine where these Allied fleets went. And of course, we know that they could have moved within 3 hexes of these 2 positions. Of course, there was a 3rd carrier fleet. We don't know where it is. We're not going to worry about that one right now. I'm going to prioritize the J10 hex because we knew that that was the aircraft carrier. And we want to kind of make sure they're not closing on us too quickly yet. Our strike force is moving in. So I want to search between J7, G9, G11, and everything in this forward area. If it went backwards, that's fine, not a problem, but this is the block of ocean that we want to search. So I put these hit markers out just to kind of orient me to make sure I'm searching inside that block. Okay, so first we're going to use the scout with the shortest range and just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And that's the hex we would, well, we could call them all out as we went. There's no reason not to, but that's the hex we're definitely most interested in. And of course, as the allied player, we just say, no, there's nothing there. And then we'll launch our second scout. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now we're just going to start, on a zigzag search pattern. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And I know we didn't search hex I9, so let me put a 2-hit marker there so I know that that's a hex that still needs to be found or searched. Just orient me to the, yeah, and we've got a fleet in, sorry, I'm just peeking over onto the allied side to make sure yeah, okay. Then we're going to take our next scout. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And we were just searching, we were just calling all those out the whole time. Okay, and our final scout, so we've got this good chunk of the ocean scouted, and now we're going to clean up these hexes here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. Oh, shoot. Did we have them at 10? Yes, at 10. So we haven't used up all of our movement yet. We get a bingo. So here we go. And I'll just label this. I thought I had a labeler. Okay, I don't. Okay. So we got one movement left on this scout. And then we get the somethings there. And now we're going to search it like we would if it were daytime, no problem. But just remember that we have a +0 because it's night. It's not day. We can still convert our final movement factor to a +2, but there's no land or base, so it's just a +2 modifier, and of course we're going to roll that. So Japanese roll a d10 with and add 2, and they rolled a very low 2, so we add 2, and that's a 4. The Allied side would need to roll a 1 or a 2 for the Japanese to get exact information, and they don't. Okay, so we'll place, we don't know, the Allies could lie and give a number of half of the ships that are actually in the fleet, up to twice as many, so they could actually report the exact number of a fleet. So that doesn't help of an older fleet. So it will come off to the Japanese as though it could be anything. The Allies report 8 ships, like 8 or 9 ships or whatever it was previously. So boom, we can't really make any inferences, and most importantly, the Japanese are not able to secure a roll for a substrike this turn. So that's it for the air operations phase. The movement, we moved our ships. So on the air return phase, we have to mark all these patrol. All of them must be marked patrol. They cannot land on this turn. They have to land in a day turn. So boom, they're all on patrol. Okay, that's it for the air return phase, and now we'll move the turn markers over. Side B. And for the Allied side, we'll move into the morning. But there's one final thing that we get to do because of the night. There's a very neat little rule here. So I'm just going to read this out loud because it's very important. A limited amount of repair is possible for damaged base or ship units that remain in the same search board hex for 2 consecutive night turns. During these 2 turns, the base or ship units, or the air units on ground or on board these units, also may not be engaged in any form of combat. If these conditions are met, during the turn record phase of the second night turn, a player may do the following to repair units. You can flip a 2-hit over to a 1-hit. You can remove a 1-hit marker. Or if it's a base unit, it can be, and it's flipped, it can be flipped to its front and have a 2-hit marker added. So for the Allied side, this is pretty big. We're going to remove the 1-hit marker off of Scouting 5 on board Yorktown, and we're going to remove the 1 hit off of Bombing 2 in Lexington. So great, we got rid of 2 1-hit markers, and we really needed that. So, but now for the Japanese side, though they don't have any hit markers anywhere, remember Lei was hit by Ray Ball in the early game, so its 2 hits will decrease to 1 hit. Okay, and that's it. And now we will kick off May 5th with turn 2 here on May 5th in the next video. That's it. Thanks for watching this. All the best from the good captain, and bye-bye.